Hello, everyone, and welcome to the workshop, PTA President Survivor Manual. I am Joan Wapnick, a New York State Field Support Coordinator, and below is my email. So today's question is, why did I say yes? And of course, you said yes because you were nominated by a committee of your peers, and they expressed faith in you that you could lead parents and teachers in your community. So of the hundreds of possible candidates, and of course, we know there were hundreds, they chose you. So thank you for saying yes, because you are an active, involved citizen of your community who enjoys challenge, and yet you are open-minded and ready to lead. So first, let's review what the leader of the team does. Okay, so you develop skills through learning and experience, because we always hope that the incoming president experienced and served in some of the other officer positions, but that's not always the case, okay? So we want you to lead by example. We want you to motivate and inspire, and if you do that, others will follow. You need to guide the inexperienced, and most importantly, you need to work together as a team. Leaders encourage and motivate. They communicate clearly and share information. So always let your members know, and especially your officers, exactly how you think things should go. Please meet deadlines and complete required paperwork. Always accept responsibility, orient and train future leaders, and most importantly, delegate, facilitate, follow up, but don't dictate. Evaluate and update, and recognize those who have helped you and reward them as well. A president's role: you are chief executive of your PTA. You show respect for all opinions, and we know there will be many. You are the leader of the team. You are the cheerleader that spurs everyone on. You are a facilitator. You are the communicator. You must build and maintain a team of volunteers. You cannot do this job alone. You cannot run your PTA alone. You need your volunteers, and you need volunteers who are all in. So, question is, where do I go from here? So, we read, we meet, and we plan. We review unit bylaws and procedures. We review past budgets. We meet with the principal and outgoing president. We gather all the records for committee reports, and we meet with the newly elected executive committee. Okay, so in the next few slides, I'm going to refer to the New York State PTA Resource Guide. Okay, so this is a book I put together, but I printed it out. But you can certainly find the resource guide on the New York State PTA website, NYSPTA.org, okay? And you can download each section. You can download the highest thing. You can pull it up on your phone. You can do all those things. So when you're training your members or your officers, always refer to the resource guide. Okay. So let's start with bylaws. Okay. They are very important to your unit. And again, New York State PTA Resource Guide, Section 7, check the following: expiration date, because PTAs for your unit or council must be reviewed and revised every 3 years. Members of exec committee, officers, immediate past, present, principal, will all be listed within your bylaws. Not all of these fall under your executive committee. Your officers do. Sometimes it includes the immediate past president, sometimes it includes the principal, but there's nothing to say that it has to. It will tell you who's part of your executive board, who your committee chairs, and who the presidents of council. If you are president of council, okay, it will tell you how many delegates you have. Okay, and it might include your school administrator. Although you're not required to, but sometimes your principal is part of your executive committee. Most important, it will talk about your quorum, okay? And it will tell you how many people you need and how many members need to be part of your meeting in order for you to conduct business. The least amount is 10, but it can go as high as 10, sometimes 25, depending on the size of your unit. It'll tell you the month of the elections for nominating committee and officers. It'll tell you the month that you need to have your audit done. It will tell you what your fiscal year is, and most importantly, it will tell you the amount charged for dues. Okay, all members are permitted to have a copy of bylaws, and I would suggest making copies for your executive board members. The next document that you really want to work on is procedures. Again, standing rules, section 7, page 9, and this will serve as a guideline for current and future members. The resource file, the resource file for unit information and procedures complement your bylaws. They cannot supersede your bylaws, but they may extend your bylaws and give more information, especially where committees are concerned. They can be adopted and may be amended at any regular meeting of the association, notice being given to the membership. Okay, so now we have those two documents that we're working on, and now our insurance. So make sure your insurance payment to New York State is on time. And there's a slight correction here. It should be sent to AIM, because that is our insurance company, by June 1st. Each president will receive an email with the proper documents. Make sure that you read them carefully and that you sign them and that you send back to AIM with the proper amount in a check. Again, resource guide, section 5A, finance, okay? We'll talk about the insurance. So I like to say, when in doubt, check it out. If you have questions about a particular activity your PTA is planning, please call the insurance company at their 800 number that they provide, or call your region or assistant director. Remember, again, check the resource guide. If you have a problem or an incident, let us know about it. Please fill out an incident report in the insurance packet and send it to the region director, the New York State PTA office, and your insurance carrier. It is very important to do this report right away as soon as you have an incident. Some lawsuits are not filed until somewhere between 2 and 3 years later, and we all know that no one is going to remember what happened. So it's best to get all of that information down as quickly as possible. Plan wisely with the safety, health, and welfare of your membership and your children as your first concern. Please check the new guidelines for events because, as we know, communicable diseases are not covered. So again, if there's an event that you're having and it is listed as an event that is not covered by insurance, call AIM right away. There are sometimes you can purchase an extra rider, but if it's not covered and you have an incident, please know that you as an officer are not covered. Part of your coverage is you pay in your insurance payment is the Fidelity Bond. So read your insurance packet. In order to be covered, you always must have 2 signatures on each check. We advise never pre-signing checks. Have the checkbook reconciled on a monthly basis by an unrelated officer with no check signing privileges. And please note that this must be read into your minutes and noted every month. So the person reconciles the book. It doesn't take a long time to do. They can do it at a meeting, come a few minutes earlier, look at the books, make sure that all the deposits are made. And most times you will find a problem if you do this monthly. We aren't trying to catch anybody, but we're trying to correct mistakes before they become a huge mistake. Okay, so now we're going to meet. So it's advisable that you meet with the principal or other school administrators. If you're a council, you might want to meet with your superintendent. You can meet by yourself. I advise maybe bringing one other officer with you, or meet with your executive committee and all the officers, okay? And it's just an introduction to maybe explain the advocacy part of PTA, what the important things are PTA, what PTA is allowed to do and not allowed to do. Meet with the outgoing president, present and past committee chairs, current officers, and review their roles, okay? No one can know what they're doing if you don't explain to them, if you don't give them information on what's expected of them. Okay, so now we're going to plan for the year. Okay, so that all of these items need a calendar. You're going to review your programs. You're going to look at your budget. You're going to set your meeting dates. You're going to do Member Hub, and you're going to set up your store. Your calendar, it's very important to set that calendar right at the beginning of the year. So when you think about it, what are the things that you need to set that calendar? What are you going to compare it to? Get your school calendar, look at holidays when schools are closed. And we also ask that you be mindful of holidays that maybe school is open, but are honored or celebrated within your community, and be respectful of that. And we also ask that you don't compete with other units. Okay, parents may have children in more than one school, so we want them to be able to participate in the activities of each school and of each PTA. We want them to be able to support each PTA. And they can't do that if there's multiple events and they have to make a choice. If you're a council, I recommend that you get all your units together and sit down with a school calendar. Sometimes school districts have a calendar committee that you can work with. These are all things so that you don't interfere with anything that's going on in the school. Again, review the budget with the executive committee. Review each budget line, okay, and look at it realistically. Was it enough? Was it too much? Did you have a need to spend that much for that event? Review the annual budget report, which is at the end of the year, the last budget report at the end of the year. And sit down and review with the executive committee. Look at, are there any plans to do more next year or less next year? Is the line realistic? So with your budget must be approved by your board and your general membership. Insist and emphasize at every board meeting that the chairman be aware of their budget line. Make it clear from the beginning and remind them throughout the year that that is the amount they have to spend and they cannot exceed without board approval. Emphasize the procedure for providing additional monies for the budget line. Okay. So we say that if you've gone over budget, then you're responsible if you're the chairperson. But we do know, and we have to bear in mind, that things might be more expensive than we thought. So if you're purchasing something and you do find that it is more expensive and you need to spend more money, that should be brought to the attention of the officers. And possibly you might have to increase that budget line. Insist that the treasurer not reimburse monies over budget unless approved by the board. All PTA checks require 2 signatures. So as we go into, now it's our meeting, okay? And again, good meetings just don't happen, but they result of good planning. And again, I advise you, there are copies in the resource guide chapters on how to chair an effective meeting, okay? It'll tell you how to do an agenda and what motions you need to make. Be prepared and plan ahead and write an agenda. An agenda might start with the pledge. The president will speak and which officers will speak and the reading of the minutes, okay? And voting on the minutes and presenting the treasurer's report. These are all important items when you're having an organized meeting. And again, I remind you that your members will thank you if you start on time and you finish on time, okay? Set ground rules so that everyone can be respectful of everyone else's opinion. Be prepared, plan ahead, make a copy of the agenda, make copies of the agenda and give one to the recording secretary so they have a guide and have them available for those in attendance. Okay, if you're having virtual meetings and if possible, I advise sending the agenda, the minutes, and treasurer's report to all board members in a PDF so they can review it. And if they have questions, they will have their questions ready. A timed agenda is definitely to your advantage because it helps everyone keep the meeting moving and to end on time. So this is an example of what you might do for a meeting. Call it to order on time. If you say the meeting is going to start at 8 o'clock, start at 8 o'clock. Establish a quorum, and that in order to know what your quorum is, where do we go? Right, we go back to our bylaws and we see what that number is. And we must reach that number in order to conduct business. If you don't have a quorum, you can still have a meeting, but you would not be able to vote on any motions. You would not be able to vote on spending any additional funds. Read and approval of the minutes. Okay, if anyone has any changes or anyone reads the minutes and find that something is not correct, correct it, and then move on. The treasurer's report. So ask about the report. Okay, if anyone has any questions. If not, it is filed for audit, which means it is kept copies for the audit at the end of the year. Correspondence. You can read if you get a very nice thank you note or a letter. It's probably a good idea to read it. But what we want to do is if it's something that's very lengthy or you've gathered information or a flyer, you might want to put it into a folder and then we just pass it around to your members. And a principal's report. Staff report, PTA staff representative may have a report. President's report should be announcements and thanking everyone who participated in events and maybe who chaired an event. The executive, and here is just a list of and a guide of who might want to report at your meeting to keep it organized. So the executive board, okay, the secretary could report any business that was transacted by the executive committee. If the executive committee is making any recommendations that need to be voted on at the membership, any standing committees, contact the chairman before and let them know. No one likes to be blindsided that they're going to have to speak at a meeting. Okay? They want to be prepared. They want to have a report. Just as you have a report, your chairman and maybe your principal needs to have a report. Okay. And I would advise if there's anything going on in the school, if there's an issue that's going on and that you know that people will have a lot of questions, I would let the principal know or the administrator that's going to speak at the meeting or any teacher rep that's going to speak. So this way they can be prepared. Any special committees that you have. Maybe you have an event chairman who's not necessarily on a standing committee, but is just doing that event. And they might want to give an update on what's happening. Okay, and here's just another thing. Most meetings are very basic parliamentary procedures. You can use Robert's rules, okay? And you can buy this at any PTA store. Your region probably has them. And this will just give you an idea of basic parliamentary procedure. Mail. Okay, let's talk about mail. Okay. What to do with it. Read it, distribute it, forward it, follow up. Most regions are, and New York State especially, is sending everything by email, or I recommend doing your email. Okay, and forwarding it to the necessary parties and that need to know that information. So let's, and I would check your spam because sometimes emails do go to spam, okay? And address those issues right away. Be a unit in good standing. Remember to change the new officers on Member Hub. Okay, that should be done as soon as they are elected. And just a note that the officers from the previous years are not removed. So even though you have the new officers, the officers from the previous year are there, and if it's appropriate for them to receive the information, they will. Make sure you make that membership final payment. Okay, Make sure that you are making payments throughout the year once the new membership year starts. Bylaws, check that expiration date. Insurance, make sure you receive that paperwork, make a payment, and make sure that you receive your insurance certificate. We advise you represent your PTA. Remember to represent your PTA wherever you go. Represent with dignity, fairly, and accurately. Educate members about PTA positions and policies. Remember, what is PTA's primary focus is advocacy. Share the unit council bylaws and procedures because they're not a secret document. It's what guides our PTA. Share new state basic policies, where we stand, if there's any position papers, and be prepared to explain the benefits of PTA. Currently, we have resources that can be very helpful to you. New York State PTA Resource Guide, and this is the link for that. National PTA also at pta.org. Your region membership website, your region director, and your region director. If you're not sure of the region that you're coming from, you can go to the NYSPTA.org under leaders, and it will have a list of those region directors throughout the state. We have 12 regions. I am actually from Suffolk, which is out here on Long Island, but you, I'm sure, are all over. Your council, okay? If you are part of a council, make sure that you attend as well as any delegates so that you can have information. You can bring back information from your unit. You can be part of decision-making if there's something throughout your district that needs to be talked about and needs to be decided about. You can talk about positions in PTA and of course, attend trainings. I hope everyone is registered for convention. And New York State offers many, many workshops, as do your regions. I would advise everyone to take advantage of that and to encourage your members, not just your officers. All officers should be attending, but encourage members to attend because that is how we foster leadership. All of these items will foster leadership. So when you become president, you are looking for someone who will take your place when your term is up. Look for that person, guide those individuals, okay? Look for leadership that will foster the length of your PTA and make it viable. I want to thank everyone for attending today. And I look forward to meeting you in the future if we ever have a regular meeting and an in-person event. Good luck to everyone. If you have questions, please reach out to me. I can put you in touch with your region director, or I can get the answer for you. And thank you.